How's it going, Sergey? I think this might be the first time that I've had someone on this probably in the same year, right? So you came on in August. We talked about your background and whatnot. Extremely interesting. Unfortunate that you can't talk about probably 80% of it, but really excited for our conversation today.
Me too, Joe. Thank you very much for having me back. It's a great pleasure, and I'm enjoying watching your episodes, your series. It's quite interesting, and it's a great pleasure to be here again. And again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody who is like either listening or watching us. I do really appreciate your kind of time on watching this interesting series.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I'm glad to hear that someone's watching the content I put out, right? You never know. You never actually know. So it's like it's always good to hear that someone listened.
Joe, the story is again I'm a big fan of this kind of informal conversations.
Yeah.
You're not getting bored by following you guys and learning something new every single episode.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. That's something that I really take a lot of pride in, having like a very original, unfiltered conversation. But Sergey, I think last time we didn't dive too much into Cyberproof and the work that you guys are doing. Why don't we talk about that? And then we'll dive into, maybe new findings that you found in 2025 and, the impact that it's going to have going forward. Because I feel like so many things changed and evolved and came to fruition in 2025. Like the groundwork is laid for 2026 to be another absolutely crazy year, not even talking about like geopolitics or anything like that, just in the cyberspace.
Right, right. It's quite interesting for me as well to share at least what we see from a cyberproof perspective. But before I start, if I can quickly introduce myself and remind the audience, like
Yes.
who am I, what I'm doing, why I'm here, and like why are you guys spending your time on like listening to this podcast. Sergey Novikov, I'm a director of cybersecurity content at Cyberproof. Cyberproof is a very niche and unique managed security service provider. We're operating all over the world with working with different kind of enterprise organizations, providing again different security solutions, security services. Our kind of a core thing is a co-managed SOC, co-managed MDR, and I like this co-managed approach because we're always in touch with our clients, accounts, and customers. And my particular role there, I'm not responsible for like managing SOC or MDR. I'm more responsible for kind of a proactive services we're putting on top of classical MDR, which is mainly cyber threat intelligence, which is my kind of a core background. On threat hunting, we call it use case management, or we can call it detection engineering, kind of a content creation on different platforms, mainly on different themes. And we're supporting kind of a most popular, most kind of relevant themes today. So this is kind of an area of my responsibility, something which goes like slightly beyond of like regular MDR, which brings a lot of proactiveness to defensive posture to our customers. All right. So that's me today, and you can watch the previous episode when me and Joe we covered a lot of historical background. Switching to the main kind of a question you started with, as soon as we're at the end of the year, having kind of a summary of what we have faced in 2025 and what was, I don't know, challenging or interesting for us as a security researchers. I would like to mention a couple of main trends. Let me put it this way. So there are very obvious ones, and like everybody's talking about them, and maybe few of them which are not that obvious from at least my perspective. So I wanted to start with kind of a identity became the primary attack surface. So in 2025, we've seen kind of a shift away from perimeter bypass towards identity compromises as the starting point for nearly every single major intrusion. So threat actors weaponize OAuth tokens, machine keys, IT impersonation, SaaS integrations to obtain trusted identities that unlock entire environments. The idea behind this is quite simple. So once identity replaced infrastructure is the point of failure, even small compromises scaled into sector-wide operational impact. And we've seen these stories a lot during the last year, which is kind of an interesting trend, at least from my perspective. one. And this is also kind of a not maybe not necessarily new, but we've seen a lot of this kind of stuff in 2025. Different kind of a collaboration between threat groups which increase the impact and speed of those attacks. Criminals and state-aligned actors increasingly shared infrastructure, tooling, and access methods, creating blended ecosystems rather than isolated groups. And a bunch of examples. Overlaps such as Scattered, Spider, Lapsus Hunters, Logbit, Dragonforce Killing, Collaboration, Kimsuki, Lazarus, and many others made those campaigns much more resilient and harder to attribute. So collaboration become a force multiplier, allowing adversaries to operate with greater tempo, geographical reach, and definitely increased technical sophistication. And as kind of a part of this trend, I also wanted to say about state-aligned activity, which became more blended and more operational. And as an example here, like North Korean, Chinese, Russian clusters, they adopted a more unified operational posture, sharing, again, it's kind of a similar what I already mentioned, sharing tooling, exploiting the same vulnerabilities, and pursuing overlapping sectors such as aerospace, finance, critical infrastructure. And again, some of those campaigns, they mixed espionage, financial theft, disruptive operations within a single intrusion chain. And again, it's not a secret, and it's already a trend for a couple of years. Boundaries between espionage and financially motivated activity completely blurred, producing hybrid operations that were much harder to detect, attribute, gain, research, and so on and so forth. And those kind of interesting trends, which are more kind of a hype-ish ones, and that's like everybody's talking about this at least from what I've seen in different kind of podcasts and news. AI, everybody's talking about AI. It's strange not to talk about AI at the end of 2025. So, and the same thing here, they're talking about the threat landscape. AI, and again, it's slightly overhyped, but still, it's accelerated the ransomware economy. So we've seen AI enhanced phishing, automated malware generation, kind of adaptive encryption, which increase the speed and scale of ransomware attacks. So models like prompt lock demonstrated fully automated intrusion to encryption workflows, reducing technical barriers and enabling rapid campaign replication. So, and kind of my thought process here is that AI didn't, or like didn't, in talking about 2025, did not replace ransomware, but it kind of industrialized it, allowing even low skill actors to deploy advanced attacks. Talking about ransomware, it's still here. Maybe in 2025 it became a little bit more quieter and more surgical, but it didn't disappear. It even opposite, it matured. We saw fewer maybe loot campaigns and more targeted intrusions with double or triple extortion. So ransomware groups are increasingly operating like advanced criminal enterprises using access brokers, custom backdoors, and then the cloud-centric
No,
supply
you're good.
chain attacks. So it's, again, it's not new in 2025, but it become like kind of a high leverage targets. So attackers increasingly exploited interconnected SaaS platforms and third-party vendors, force integrations, different IT service providers, aviation technology suppliers, many different things to reach dozens of downstream victims at once. So this mirrored patterns seen in automotive, retail, aviation, and manufacturing disruptions. And again, we've heard so many stories in 2025 behind Scatter Spider and many other groups using this kind of supply chain intrusion attacks.